Hey guys, this is SunsFan and this is the official Dota Cinema Guide to Basic Warding. Our goal here is to give you a decent idea of where to put your wards on a consistent basis. Keep in mind that this is not meant to be an inclusive list. In fact, we plan to do a more advanced version in the future. We also will not talk about counter warding here, which will also be in a future guide. And lastly, please keep this at the forefront of your mind. Although certain ward spots may seem more beneficial to a specific side at first glance, they can also be very helpful for the opposing team depending on how offensive or defensive the teams are. Observer wards are a beautiful thing. A pack of 2 costs 200 gold and will give a huge 1600 AoE in vision depending on the spot. Wards are crucial for map control and will last a total of 6 minutes. Because of their usefulness, there is a limited stock of 2 packs in the shop, with a 6-minute replenish time.
Rune control.
At the top rune there are several wards to choose from depending on which side you're on. As you can see, this top rune is probably the most common and therefore might not be the best choice since the opposing team is expecting it. And although common as well, this ward by the Ancients will see both the rune and the Ancients, which will help set up ganks when an opposing carry is attempting to kill a stack. It's also helpful as a defensive ward for the Radiant, in order to catch anyone going through that route in order to gank the top lane. And then we have this ward by the stairs, which is a lot less common and will not only see the rune, but will also catch anyone trying to come up the stairs for a gank on mid, which of course is very helpful if you are the Dire Persuasion. At the bottom rune, the most common spot to place a ward if you're the Dire is right here. This will both spot the rune as well as any potential gank towards the bottom lane. Keep in mind that most good jungle heroes will counter this right away. These 3 spots are the remaining wards to choose from for the bottom rune. They all give similar vision for the entrance to the Radiant jungle as well as the main avenue for Roshan's pit, which we will discuss further now.
Roshan.
A lot of the previously mentioned rune wards can suffice for a successful bout with Roshan, but if counter warding comes into play, you may be looking for some less common spots to use. First, let's look at this as if we were on the Dire, where we have 2 potential choices that are very close to each other. The first spot will show most of the entrance to the Radiant jungle, as well as additional vision towards the west, therefore giving you ample time to prepare for an oncoming clash. The second ward is similar in nature, although it won't give you ample time to react. It will, however, give you vision on your own ramp next to Roshan, which can be helpful if you feel the Radiant will use that to initiate. If you're the Radiant, you mostly have to worry about the Dire coming from their secret shop area if they're planning to stop you from rushing. This is why a ward close to their secret shop is so perfect. Firstly, it will rarely get counter warded and will also give you vision with enough time to react to a potential fight. This ward can also be chosen if you feel the east is also a major threat, although it won't give you as much time to react.
Lane wards.
Depending on how far the lanes are pushed, lane wards can be crucial for any chasing situation. From the Radiant perspective, these 2 wards can be very helpful if you're worried about reinforcements coming from the opposing side. If the Dire are expecting the runes to be warded and thus must rely on teleports for their ganking purposes, then these wards will show all. And as you can see, the same can be said for the Dire's perspective. Having vision like this is so helpful. It gives you the confidence in knowing if and when any potential enemy chooses to gank through the lane.
Jungle.
There are many jungle wards to choose from, but we'll go with the most common. Here in the Dire Forest, close to the top lane, you will see an elevated plain in which wards are extremely common. And as you can see here, the Radiant have a very similar ward spot in their forest. Although common, these 2 ward spots give unimpeded vision around very crucial points, allowing easy initiating past the respective tier 2 towers. Another good ward in the Dire jungle is a very well-traveled point, in which you can catch the enemy team getting into position for a gank. And of similar nature, the Radiant ward is actually more flexible because it will show a very common creep camp, as well as be able to potentially block a spawn. We will talk about blocking next.
Pull blocking.
If you're not sure what pull blocking is, then I'll give a brief description. Both teams have neutral camps they can use to pull their waves onto. If you stack a camp before doing this, you could potentially kill off multiple waves, leaving the opponent starved for experience. A way to stop this is to put a ward in or around that neutral camp, therefore blocking anything from spawning for up to 6 minutes. Here in the Radiant's neutral camp there are 3 common spots to block. Spot number 1 is inside the actual camp itself, which is easily counterable. If you're placing this ward after a camp is already spawned, this could be helpful in order to gain vision onto when they're pulling the single camp. This spot is less likely to be countered as the enemy may need to use a flying courier to help locate it. The third spot is also similar to the last, but will give vision to an important part of the jungle as well. In the Dire's jungle, you can actually pull from 2 camps. The main camp, much like the Radiant, has 3 potential spots to choose from. Spot number 1 is directly in the camp and will give more vision for any single pulls. Spot number 2 will be harder to locate and will give vision on an entirely different angle, the entrance from the river. And spot number 3 is the least likely to be countered and will also give vision to the river, just not as much. And as I said previously, there is a second camp the Dire can pull from, which can be warded if deemed necessary. A ward either inside the camp or on the outer edges is sufficient, with the vision being helpful for potential ganks.
Base wards.
If your team is trying to push in a base tower but you're having a tough time initiating since the enemy team is playing so passive, a base ward may be needed. As you can see from the Radiant base, there are 2 common spots you have to choose from, while the Dire have the same in their base. Just make sure when you're placing these wards that they're not too close to the tower, or else you'll just be wasting a good opportunity to catch the enemy off guard. Having this vision can be crucial towards the later stage of the game, when you're having real issues trying to breach the enemy's base. Thanks for watching, guys, and please remember to subscribe to our YouTube. Also, a special shout out goes to Flawless for his help in writing this guide. You can check him out at his YouTube, which is linked in the following annotation. And finally, please be sure to check out our stream at own3d.tv/DotaCinema, where you can find tournament shoutcasts, as well as me playing with you. This was SunsFan, and please, have my babies, please.